when the world has got you down. And
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Donald. How are you?
I'm pretty good, hanging in there.
Yeah, we had tech gremlins again this morning.
We're
having tech gremlins. And what's going on, Riverside? Get your act together.
We're back on Zoom right now.
Embarrassing us. We're supposed to be so professional. And then this really cool guest that we have is thinks we're like, oh.
Well, we are.
Well, that's true.
That's nothing to do with Riverside or Zoom. It's us. So, everything's good. I'm boosted.
You're boosted.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're
3.
your age.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm over 18.
Oh, that's true.
You
look great.
But I'm all good. I feel good. Everything's good.
I'm
things are fine.
jelly. I'm going to get mine. And
yes.
you didn't have that many side effects, right? Just like day.
I had less. Yeah, I had like 36 hours of not feeling great compared to number 2, where I had like 2.5 days of feeling like hot garbage.
Yeah.
So, this was just garbage, not hot garbage.
Not hot garbage. So go and get some garbage, you guys, and get.
Yeah, it's so worth it.
Yeah, it's like it's like you have like a just now, right? You can go out and be in the world.
Well, it's supposedly, I guess, 2 weeks after or something. But,
okay,
you still got to be careful. Everyone, be careful. Still,
be careful. Still,
Let's get this over with.
And anything else exciting?
Trying to think. Well, holidays coming up.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, although by the time they hear this, it will have long passed. We will have been full.
That's true.
And, so let's pretend that it already happened. Boy, was Thanksgiving great.
It was.
I am so full. I have so much turkey in me.
And my meal was fabulous. I cooked it so well.
It was so good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do a quick shout out once again to our other podcast that we have a whole season called I Love Lucifer. And
the podcast.
It's a scripted comedy horror. And if you haven't checked it out, please do. We keep trending in the top 10 in a lot of the indie podcast lists, on Good Pods and on Podchaser and on Stitcher. And Adam Levy from The Witcher is our narrator and plays the father of our 2 female leads.
Her eyes are literally burning with an outrageous color of red. My fearless daughter moves in to plant a kiss, but Portia manages to hold her away. Tanya's lips hover inches from Portia's. Hot. From the heat from Portia's eyes. Don't be daft. Now, in the grips of this wretch, Tanya is once again.
It's basically 2 B movie stars who fight movie monsters by day and real monsters by night. And it's a whole metaphor about Hollywood. You'll love it. It's fun.
It's very different from this. Very different.
Very different. But
it's a great listen, and if we do say so ourselves, and we're very proud of it.
And if you like, you can rate and review and share with your friends and help us get
subscribe
and help us get funding for season 2, because our fans want season 2, and COVID's over, so we can't get all these actors for free. We have a lot of actors
everyone's busy.
and I think I should sleep this next year.
We got a lot of mouths to feed.
Yes. So that's that. So
awesome.
I'm so excited about today because our guest, I'll let you introduce him, but it was, again, social media, LinkedIn. I discover this beautiful post from this man who tagged me. Like, that's how I found it. And I thought, wait, do I know Robert Pardi? And I thought, no, but I should, because this is so beautifully written and it resonated so much about caregiving. And and this gigantic heart like just jumped off my screen, and I needed to meet him. And I just immediately said, would you please be a guest on our show? Because I loved everything he had to say, and I continue to love everything that he writes. And it's very prolific and transparent with his feelings, very authentic. I just love it so much. So, Don,
yes,
will you do an
Well,
official introduction?
I will do that.
Thank you.
I will do that. Actually, I'd be honored to. In 1997, after receiving his MBA from Columbia University, Robert Pardi was quickly recruited by the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, one of the largest sovereign wealth funds. But shortly after, his wife Desiree was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She fought courageously for 11 years, during which time Robert lovingly took on the role of caregiver. Despite her illness, they created a beautiful life together until her passing in 2009. This life journey taught him about psychology and coaching through practical and hard experience. Since then, he moved to Italy, changed careers, became a certified life coach, international speaker, and most recently a prolific and thought-provoking writer, culminating in his first book, Chasing Life, the remarkable true story of love, joy, and achievement against all odds. It has truly been an amazing journey, and now let's meet the man who is on that journey, Robert Pardi. Hello, Robert.
Hello to the both of you. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, we're so happy to have
Pleased
you.
to have you.
I am thrilled. And before we go forward, I can't wait to see I Love Lucifer.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, you'll hear
So,
it.
Hear
You
it.
shall
Well, yeah,
hear
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
yeah. No, I can't wait.
Oh,
Can't wait. I
thank
didn't know
you
you
so
had
much.
that. So.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
It's so much fun.
It's, it's like, just 1 second on that, because when you said see, it's like, that's exactly what we want you to do, is like see everything through your ears.
Yes.
So we paint a picture with audio, and it's so much fun. It was such a challenge. So I hope you like it. But
Well,
onto you though.
Yeah,
You are
go ahead.
you're quite some human being. You are really something else.
Well,
And I'm just honored to be able to have this opportunity to talk with you and hear your story of caregiving, and also how you dove into this community with all that you have, and all of your skills and all of your character, and made it such a powerful tool for you to give for yourself and for everybody. So, that it's just, you don't meet people like you all the time, and it's, authentic and very, very impactful and profound. So thank you for sharing this with us.
No, for sure. Thank you. And you're hitting a word that I learned through caregiving. I mean, if caregiving teaches us anything, it's to strip away all the BS, and to be authentic. I mean, why would we carry around so much BS and not truly live life, right? So,
Right.
I dove in, like you said, because I realized everything I experienced wouldn't have any value if I didn't share it. I remember my grandmother and her curio cabinet and all the little figurines getting dusty, and that would be my experiences if I just left them on a curio cabinet, right? So
Right.
instead of letting them get dusty and just they're there for show, is to come out and say, hey, this is what happened. This is what it's about. This is what I learned. My journey is different than everybody else. But, I think, and I recently said this maybe in a post, caregiving is an extreme boot camp of life.
Yep.
I mean, you're going to be tested in a million different ways, right? And you're going to walk out changed. You're going to walk out with new skills, new perspective. That's why I'm a life coach, right? I was the investment banker, and just didn't sit inside me anymore. I never really did. I could go into why I actually got into investment banking, but after the experience with Desiree, I just couldn't get back to it.
I echo that. I feel you. I get it. It is like boot camp, because, there you either make it through or you don't. And I don't mean that, that I think anybody can, but some people just don't want to. And everything about it frightens them, or it seems too hard, so they'd rather not. And that's the whole purpose of our conversation, is to say, try it, just try it, because it's better than anything else. And it is worth it.
What you just said is so profound, right? Because the whole idea of it's so much better than anything else. The idea of caregiving, right, is venturing towards an endpoint no one really wants to recognize. And so how could it be better than anything else? But it's in that acceptance of the journey towards that endpoint that's the whole BS, getting rid of the unnecessary. I mean, it's the opportunity to truly connect. And I just found it, I was lucky too, because I was married to an amazing woman. So, and who I am today is a direct reflection of our connection and understanding real connection. So it is so frightening as well, like you said, because, you're also, it's a different language. It's a skill set. You all of a sudden you show up, you don't have the skills for the job, and the job function changes daily sometimes. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, wow, this is so overwhelming. But what I like to say is, I say, if you look past the obligation to the opportunity of caregiving, that's where it just opens up a world of truly amazing things.
It really does. It really does. It's like, it's that adage of like, we're born, we live, we die. So it's but we all have that same, that's the format. That's the format we signed up for. And so it's, what do you do between those, the beginning and the end? And there's been so much pretense built up, all these different frames and boxes that we're supposed to, that's what happiness is, or that's what goodness is, or that's what success is. And, who said? Nobody. And right? Who said? And also, like, at the end of the day, you can't take any of those boxes with you. The only box you can take is with you here. That's all you have, because sometimes we don't even have our memories. My mom has Alzheimer's, so she may not have the memories, but she has this.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how we communicate.
How long did it take till you were able to, first of all, accept it, and then lean into it, and then embrace it? What was that journey? What was that path?
You got 10 years, Don?
No, that is truly a great question, because first I should preface, right? I grew up in a rather unusual situation with an abusive alcoholic dad. So that taught me a lot of life skills to confront certain dynamics or fears or events. So when this happened, I think there wasn't necessarily acceptance, but I just turned on that resilience type thing that I had when I was a kid. And my wife was also very strong, and it was something we were just going to take care of. It's
Right.
like, all right, we're going to get that axe, we're going to chop the crap out of it, and we're just, when it recurred, surprisingly, Desiree was rather at peace with the recurrence. And I think for her, my wife she was very rooted in her beliefs. I mean, she knew the way she wanted to live from the moment I met her at 17. I mean, she knew who she was.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I think she just said, okay, now I can put this behind me. I don't have to worry about if it's going to come back. Where I was like, all of a sudden, I couldn't fix. And I had to realize, wait a minute, what is my role if I don't fix?
Right.
Yeah, I was the warrior with her, and we had a very strange dynamic because she didn't want to know anything about her disease. So I was the one that stayed in the middle. She didn't know the size of her tumor. She didn't know the number of lymph nodes. Many times she didn't know the chemotherapy she was on. As it progressed and it recurred in her liver, she believed, of course, she wasn't stupid by the end of her life. She had to know, but I kept just saying, no, it's staying in your liver. We're keeping it contained. But one of the reasons was because she was an MD PhD student when she was diagnosed. But so when it recurred, I literally had to do the sink or swim. All right, if I'm sitting here fearful and crushed by the idea that this has come back, I'm of no use to her whatsoever. And she's asking me to be her rock.
Right.
So what do I do here? And what I realized, and it was rather immediate, maybe after a little small period of drinking a little too much and having to cope with it in a way that, like, I was like, really, we actually are going to go down that road. But once I broke through that, what I realized was, wait a minute, my role as a caregiver is actually to give my wife space to be a human, to be a woman. I'm not there to fix. I'm there to witness. I'm there to help her achieve what she wants to achieve, but she's not an object. And that's one of the reasons why I love your podcast as well, because for me, Alzheimer's is very interesting, because people then start to treat the person as an object, or they're not right anymore. And it's maybe we just have to come down and learn to communicate with them instead of expecting them to rise up to us. And in between, what Desiree and I really shared was communication about everything, about not about death, let's say. We didn't use the word in the house, even though she wound up being a palliative care doctor, but it was what quality of life meant.
Right.
It was how I want to manage the disease. It's how I want to live around the disease. Those were conversations that were so important. And then conversations around intimacy, which, it is pretty tough. A woman already loses a part of her body, which is, the feminine part to a certain extent in our society. And then she immediately went into menopause because she did a stem cell transplant. And it was a very rapid type of menopause where she couldn't even enjoy her body as a woman. So, what do? Do you avoid that, or do you jump into that conversation? If we avoided it, that would have been space between us.
Yeah.
And she would have felt alone. And I think part of being a caregiver, yes, we have to do all those things, right? I flushed ports and I cleaned up vomit and everything else that comes with, that type of journey. But so much of it was to sit there and listen and acknowledge that she was a human being and not make it all about the disease.
You made space for her. You made space for her. Yeah. And what's, unique about being a caregiver for someone you love, like your wife and like me as a daughter, and albeit as a husband, you have the added level of intimacy and those kinds of relationship components that I don't have with my mother. So I haven't experienced what that would be like. However, it is about their journey, and it's hard because it's a lot of juggling your own emotion and allowing them to go through this natural. And even though it's a tragic and it happened too soon, it's part of life. And at one point or another, we're all going to lose each other, so it's about allowing them to go through this process. And I said, and I want to go back again, what you said about her, when it recurred, she wasn't as devastated as you thought she would be. There was a sense of almost like
peace.
Yeah. Like, and I say that, I don't know if you had a chance to watch my film, My Mom and the Girl, but that year was the year I walked my mom across the bridge from her defending herself against this disease and being, so stubborn, and offended by it, till she embraced it because she had no other choice. And she was suddenly at peace. And it filled my heart because I know that she wasn't ridden with anxiety anymore, because she, in her way, she said, got it. This is it. I'm down with it. I'm there.
That's the whole premise behind surrender, right? that is so amazing when we sit there and we say, okay, this is what it is. And I think it was for my wife. I mean, you know, the hope was it would be chronic. And honestly, to tell you the truth, for a woman that was diagnosed in 1998, living 11 years, basically with metastatic breast cancer for 9.5 of them, without the drugs we have today, was amazing. So, you know, we looked at it as maybe this could continue, but it is that whole idea of fighting against something you can't control.
Yeah.
Holy crap, do you waste a lot of energy, and then you feel like a victim to the whole thing.
Yes.
And when you start looking at what you can control, and the first thing we can control is acceptance, even as the caregiver, you know, did I want to go down that road? Did I want to know my wife was going to pass away? Most likely. I mean, maybe there was going to be a cure, but no. But what you said is, and this was such a hard lesson, and Don, it sort of ties back to what you were saying earlier as well. I had to realize it was not about me. It was, of course, about me because we were the unit, but it was her journey. And if I was playing the, you know, I'm tired, I'm angry, I've had enough of this, this isn't fair, we're just wasting energy on things that are ridiculous.
On bullshit. Yeah.
And you go back to, because it's different, because men are naturally, they want to solve all problems.
And some women too. Some women
There's some women too, but in general, yes. But it's like, if you're not fixing it, you're not doing it right. And therefore, which causes, you know, it's bad for both sides, because sometimes is it better to just ask the person, what do you want? How can we make this, or is that a question, is that a good question, or is that a bad question?
I love that you brought that up. First, can I say, if anyone suffered the Superman complex, it was me. I swear, I had dreams of being Superman and flying, and sometimes not being able to get off the ground. I mean, it was just, you know, I wanted to fix it all. I wanted to find the cure. I learned more about all kinds of herbal supplements and everything else that you could possibly imagine, right? Those 2 o'clock in the mornings when you can't sleep. But the question is actually also, I think, the question that needs to be asked in medicine. And that's part of palliative care.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I were very lucky with her doctors that asked, how can I help you? And so the same type of thing, my wife, if I didn't ask those questions, then I would have fought against a lot of decisions. And we wouldn't have been a team in it. We would have been two parties looking at it from different angles.
Right.
And it's so important. That's why, you know, so caregiving journeys are so different. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be caring for someone that else has Alzheimer's and sometimes can't answer those questions.
I was just going to say that to you. I was going to say to the audience too, you know, there's the one of the biggest, you know, problems with that being a caregiver for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's is that if we don't have discussions ahead of time, we'll never know what they really want, because we've lost that moment. We lost that window. And so we have to play, you know, we have to do our second guessing the best that we can. And, you know, empathy, try to put yourself in that position, you know, try to remember who that person was, and what would they want? What would they like? How, what is the best for them, you know? And so that is one of the problems with someone with memory issues. So
for sure. But having the conversation at the beginning is also so important. And a lot of people avoid these conversations because they are difficult, because you are then saying, this is what we're dealing with. You know, you're actually talking about the pink elephant in the room, which makes people uncomfortable, right? So we spoke all the time. And like I said, we didn't speak about death. We didn't speak about except that I know that she wanted to be cremated. We didn't speak about any real logistics or anything like that. But we talked about quality of life. We talked about what she needed. We had many an argument that she didn't want to be married to a parent. If I was like, don't eat the donut, it's got sugar, sugar feeds cancer, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have to find your footing as well. And it's hard because this is when we can talk about the ego, and it's very hard to understand defining the ego, except for the fact that the ego says that we're the center of what's happening. And in a caregiving role, you can't be the center.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
So,
That's right. Yeah.
And it's hard to be selfless sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
It really is.
Oh, yeah.
But that's
Very
okay.
difficult.
But that's okay. It's okay if we are human as well.
Yeah.
So we make mistakes, and we can, I think if you show up, you're a hero. Just showing up, you're a hero, because so many people don't show up.
So many people don't show up.
So
the other thing as well, this whole idea of, and I love that you said it, we're human. You know, we have this idea of our best. And, you know, I know, at least for me, that definition was running at 110%, whether it was my career, you know, when I was in investment banking or whatever it was 110%. Our best is fluid. It's our intention, which should always be 110%. But if we wake up and it's been 48 hours and we finally got a little sleep and we're just groggy, you know what? If we can only give 20%, then make it the best 20% it can be, but accept the fact that today I'm at 20.
that's right. That's right.
We put
Absolutely.
a lot of pressure on ourselves.
It helps avoid one thing that caregivers always go through, which is guilt. But doing anything for yourself is, well, if I'm doing something for myself, I'm not being a good caregiver, which is quite the opposite. You have to take care of yourself. Did you find there were times it's like, you know what, I just want to go out and get a drink with my friend, but if I do that, I'm not being a good caregiver? How did you deal with stuff like that?
The guilt was definitely there. Not necessarily, again, it was with the recurrence, because all of a sudden there was the time aspect of it. There was a lot involved. A lot of emotions came up. But what you said is so valuable. Think about showing up for a job and you haven't slept for 48 hours and you have a critical job. Maybe you're a surgeon. It's more likely you're going to make a mistake, right? So you need the rest to perform. You need the self-care to perform. We sort of forget that equation when we are a caregiver dealing with a loved one for some strange reason, but we can actually do harm if we're not caring for ourselves. And again, I probably was very blessed that my wife was in the medical profession, and there's the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. And I realized that is really for everybody. You know, if you run yourself into, and sometimes you have to forget about it, you know, there's just no way you can go out and, you know, get a drink or a massage. Or I was someone that had to run. So if I didn't go out running, then, you know, it was my way to let everything out. In Italian, it sounds so much better. It's called sfogarsi. And, you know, it's just one of those things, like you just blow it all out of you and then you come back. But it was hard to manage all of that. And also, I wanted to hang out with my friends, but I didn't want that, you know, the head bob, is everything okay?
Yeah.
You know what? No, hey, let's talk about the game or something. I don't want to be asked how, you know, I appreciated it. But a lot of that self-care is to say, I need to step out of that whole role.
Exactly.
And I want to talk normal language. I'm sure, Susie, you speak a different language. You speak medical speak now. You know a lot of different things, right? I was able to throw out those words, and I was like, wow, you know what? I'd like to just talk about, you know, a baseball game or something.
Yeah. I want to talk about Steve Madden's new shoe. I get it. I get it, because it's like, you know, and I think of it all the time now, because my mom is, you know, Alzheimer's is either a very swift disease or it can be the longest goodbye. And my mom has taken the longest goodbye. And if I get, you know, esoteric about it, I thank the universe because it was one of my biggest fears is losing her. So she gave me a long exit to get used to it, because my mom is extremely witty. Even now, like I can get her, I can see the wheels turning. She can't find the words, but boy, there was something funny coming out, And so, she'd always say, Duffy, don't go. I'm not going anywhere. What do you mean, die? I'm not going. That's like, I got stuff to do. Right. So, but when people ask me now, how's your mom? I have no idea how to answer that. That's a freaking huge question. And I can't address it. I always say she's the same. She's just the same. She's my mom. I can't say, it's very difficult. And I, like you, when she first got diagnosed, I was like, and it was my ego saying, Mom, I've got this. We're going to kick its ass. I know other people haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do that. We're going to figure out how to beat this little jerk. And, my mom was, even in the beginning, my mom was like, stop. Because she knew.
Yeah.
And she's very practical about that. And I love her because she is the voice. She is the voice of reason. I can see it in her eyes. She's a voice of reason. She's a joie de vivre, but it's like, it is what it is.
Well, how you just said about, in the eyes, I could imagine as well, you've learned to communicate in a deeper way. There might not be the words sometimes, but you're communicating and you're feeling actually her expressions. You're not listening anymore. And that must, in and of itself, touch very deeply.
Yeah. Do you have children?
No, unfortunately, because Desiree, when she was diagnosed, she decided to go for a stem cell transplant. And the first day of this, and the way it worked is it was basically 24 hours of chemotherapy for 1 week.
Oh,
so they're really just bringing your body to the brink of death. And then they put your stem cells back in
right.
After they had radiated them or something. But she went into menopause immediately.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
The reason why I brought that up is because, I have 2 daughters and raising my daughters from these nuggets of just, cells of, these little pictures from a ultrasound to these women. And, I see, and I call it Benjamin Button because I see how my mom is doing. She's stepping backwards the way that they've stepped forwards. And one day we'll step backwards the same way. And the skills that she had, she'll lose. But at some point, they're the same. So when you communicate with a new human, it's all intention.
Yes.
They don't know words. It's all intention. It's all with, it's unspoken communication. And it's really powerful. Your babies know if you're upset, your babies know if you're happy, if they feel safe, if they feel loved, or if they feel fear.
Yeah.
And that's how it is the same for an adult who's losing those skills that they once had. So they're relying on other skills, which is intuition, intention, and feeling.
Right.
And so you have to readjust. And so you can't communicate like we communicate together. I have to communicate, my mom's language.
Right. And that's so powerful because instead of trying to drag her back to something that is actually impossible to get back to at this moment, you meet her where she is. And I think that's a great metaphor for any sort of caregiving journey. The caregiver needs to meet the person where they are.
Yes.
Again, Don, it gets to that whole thing of you saying sometimes it is very hard to be selfless, and it is very hard for all of those different things. It goes back to, at the beginning, I said, obligation and opportunity. The opportunity is to show up and to learn to let that stuff go and to learn about giving, because really what we're all doing, like you said at the beginning, it's space. We are giving space for that person we're caring for. And again, Maybe because Desiree and I, we met when we were so young. She was 17 and I was 19. So we also grew up together. Maybe that had some insight into the way things worked between us. Also, Desiree, she lived a very interesting philosophy of not believing in judgment at all, even to herself. So she only ever wanted to know she was doing her best, which is where maybe I learned that whole idea of best. So she never knew her GPA. She never knew her grades on exams. She never knew her grade on the MCATs. So the idea that she didn't want to know anything about her disease and just wanted to know she was doing her best and she was being aggressive made perfect sense.
Ah, I love that.
It
What an
didn't alienate
extraordinary
me.
woman. What an
It's-
extraordinary woman she was.
But
No,
that allows her to live at her fullest. Because if you're sitting there and worrying about something you can't control, you're okay.
losing
That's
it.
it. That's your life. Then you're not living life. You're just
No.
living in what may be or will be, and that's not a good
or
place
what
to
is,
be.
or
So,
what isn't,
or
and
what
what
if.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of that, right?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
Susie, any illness journey is full of losses, and each of those losses has a grieving aspect to it. And if you're just focusing on the things that have fallen away, that whole experience, that existence is a waste, really, because there's so much that's gained, and it requires us to look for that as well.
Exactly. It's like when my first daughter's father, who is still, we're divorced, but we're still family, we're very close. We also met as teenagers. So, and, we have different ways of looking at life. And Rick, my ex, has always mourned every passage of time with my daughter, our daughter. He's just, he's very sentimental, and he reminisces and, pines for certain, and I have always, I don't know why, but it's just been, it's one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that I've just loved every stage of them. And I don't miss, yes, I love them as babies. My girls were I wanted to chew them up and eat them up. And I loved us, having babies was the most amazing thing in the world. But I love every stage of them. I love them as women. I loved them as horrible teenagers. I loved it all. And I will love it all. And I think we have to love every stage of the people that we love and accept it, right? And otherwise we're missing out. If
And
you're
every moment, it's living in the present.
I love that you said that, Don. I love it, because that's really what it all came down to. And I mean, Susie, even the way you talk about your mom, you can see there's joy written all over your face. And so that shows that you're living in moments of joy, regardless of what's going on. And that's really what I learned more than anything else, is that regardless of adversity, and, Viktor Frankl wrote about this, Socrates wrote about these things, so it's not like it's anything new, was that regardless of the things around us, there is always joy. Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, you're there, and like Don said, in that present moment, the present moment is where there's joy. I always say, 99.9% of the population will be taken by a rainbow. Like, for that one brief second, they're 100% present. They look at it, they mm-hmm. smile. That's joy. We just have to lean into it.
Yeah.
We can't pursue joy like a goal. Mm-hmm. It's just always there. So can you find it in whatever is going on? And that, I think, is, for me, one of the things I realized in the caregiving journey was it gave me the ability to say, really, who the F do I want to be? Like, do I want to stay fearful this whole trip? Because, who knows, maybe I was supposed to be on the top of the World Trade Center during September 11th. I had a meeting on the top floor in Windows on the World. And I happened to cancel it at 7:30 that morning.
Oh my God.
So, and so I was like, we know her train. right? And it's well defined. Maybe my train is going to stop before hers gets to her destination.
Right. We don't,
We don't know.
And
Yeah,
we don't know. And it's so powerful, the idea of the present moment. And it's gotten, I think, so foo-foo-y, and everyone likes to use the term the present moment. And you know what? It just means being conscious.
yeah.
You know, be conscious
and in tune.
Well, this
with-
is all
yeah.
we have, and I say that too, that my mom really, if you, or anybody that has, especially, issues with memory, they're only living in the moment. They can only live in the moment because they can't remember 10 seconds ago.
Right.
So in some ways, it's the greatest gift you can ever get, because it teaches you how to live in the moment and how not to work. I remember my brother said to me, towards the beginning of her disease, and I was like, you don't visit mom enough, I would say, and I get frustrated, and he'd say, she doesn't remember anyway, it doesn't matter. And I know that perspective is shared by a lot of people, that it doesn't matter because she won't remember. Well, it does matter. She might not remember
They
the way.
remember in a different way.
Yes.
We always say that, they don't remember here, but they remember here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's cumulative. And like Susie always says, when you go to the, you can see who hasn't been visited. And they all have the same, cognitive memory issue, but you can tell who has not been visited and who has been, because it does get in a different way.
You just go, yeah. It's sad. And that's why, we talk about, like you mentioned in your post yesterday about, it's not about reframing. And I wanted to bring that up, in some ways for me, it is about reframing how we look at it, because in the sense that if I can take the same situation, yes, it's got bad. There's definitely bad. I don't want to see my mom like this. She has such gifts to her, but guess what? She still has those gifts, because when I go to visit her, or, Zooming for the last 18 months with her, and people go, oh, they'll pop in the camera and go, oh, is that your mom? We love her. And how do they love her? She doesn't even talk to any, but she'll give up. I know that she's communicating to them, because she'll go, or she'll say, and she wants to kiss them, because she gets it across. She makes
Sure.
it work. And, so it is, for me, it was about reframing in terms of saying, yes, bad is there, but bad is everywhere.
Right.
And we can't be Pollyannas about it. Yes, there is bad, and we'll take that on. That's what we do as human beings. But let's not forget about the good just because there's bad.
100%. And the idea, because reframing is, a lot of people believe that reframing is talking yourself into something that maybe isn't logical, or a lot of people just, they think
Right.
of it in the wrong way. So what you're saying is true, is that even though there's bad, there is good, right? So the idea of benefit finding is then saying, so, then you define them, and you define what are those things. And the reason I brought that up in that post is because I hear a lot of people talking about how, and it's true, caregiving is difficult and is exhausting. It's not all that. It's that, and there's a lot else.
Right.
You
Like
gain
all of
skills.
life, like all of life.
Like all of life. And I think recently I've just heard a lot more people talking about the frustrating aspect of caregiving. And if you sit in that camp, then wow, it's an obligation, and it's heavy, and it's draining. But if you look at it more as all the things that you're getting from it, and how you're stretching yourself, and how you're opening yourself up, use the word at the very beginning, vulnerability. That's our like superpower, really. Like if you're wearing armor all the time, you're really not engaging in life, and you don't know who you are. You
No.
define your strength because of the armor, because you're
Right.
protected. Take it off and learn how strong you are.
Right.
And that's when you're giving of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And you can, and it's okay. You might not be strong. You might, like in the beginning, in the first couple of years of my mom, I would go and visit her when I had to put her in assisted living. And I'd always come in like, Susie Sunshine. And then I'd go and hug her, and then over her shoulder, I'd boo hoo hoo. And then I'd wait till it then came back, and then I'd be back again. And I was like, I had to give myself a break. I didn't want to cry in front of her because I didn't want her to feel bad or misinterpret. So but now, now I'm very strong, but it's okay not to be strong. Right.
Well, that's so cool, right? Because strength does not mean you're numb to it.
Yes.
Strength actually means you feel it.
Yeah.
And you allow yourself to feel it.
Yes. Yes.
You're crying the whole bit, and then you're going to be like, all right, that's over with now.
Let's sing a song.
Let's sing a song. Right. That's what I mean by strength. The idea of numbing yourself from the whole thing is not strength.
Or
strength
avoiding.
Is actually avoiding. It's going into the fire, coming back out, and being ready to do it again.
Yes.
But knowing that you have to feel all those emotions.
Yes.
My wife never saw me cry. In fact, we were on the Oprah Winfrey show. This is before it was the internet, really, so it's not available on the internet. But when they were filming us, they asked me to sort of look like I collapsed in the hospital or cry, and I'm like, but I didn't do that.
Right.
My wife didn't see that. And I didn't believe that was valuable. Now, after her cancer occurred, she had an amazing oncologist, and he called me into his office to talk about the results. He'd never done that. Now, my wife was at work. I left my apartment building. It was March. New York City apartments are really hot, so I was wearing shorts and flip-flops and a t-shirt. I left dressed like that. It was bitter cold, walked to his office. I cried every step. I walked into his office. I saw the nursing staff with tears in their eyes as soon as I walked in. I knew I was going to have that conversation I didn't want to have.
Right.
But in front of her, I was like, that doesn't serve her. That's not what she needs to see. Right. So like you said, you hugged your mom. She didn't see it. Boo hoo hoo.
Yeah.
So strength is feeling it all. That's, for me, strength is feeling it all.
I agree. It's interesting, your story. Valerie Harper played the lead in our movie about my mom, and she played. She was I don't know if you know Valerie, who she is.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
And so she was given 3 months to live, like 8 years before that, and she. Listen, she wasn't happy about that at all, right? Who would be? But she decided to, she always said, I'm not going to my funeral before I'm ready. I'm not going to go. I don't want to be at my funeral until I'm dead. So she said, I'm alive. I'd say, oh my God, she is my mother, because I would say all the time when my mom could speak still, and I'd say, Mommy, how are you today? She'd go, I'm alive. Fantastic. And that's how Val was. And because of that attitude, Val lived another 10 years. She passed away 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
After our film. And she was so accepting of it. It was more about her husband she was worried about, Tony, who was like, just like you, her champ, and her, he was like, come on, you're walking. Italian, by the way, too, right? Italian who wanted to be Jews. So it was like, they were basically like, I had to get them a female rabbi for the services, because they're like, and my stepfather, by the way, who since passed, he's an Italian Jew. So we're all the same. Okay.
Well, no, we are all the same, regardless, right?
Regardless, but it reminds me so much of that philosophy, because, when you have somebody like your wife and Valerie, who are such gifts in the way that they are embracing their life, and it's a gift, and it's a beautiful, amazing, I can just cry thinking of Valerie, not because I'm sad about her, but because I feel so blessed that I got to spend such a significant amount of time with this amazing, freaking wonderful human being that changed my life, not because she was in my movie, but because she entered my life.
Right.
And I love her so much. Like, and that's because of the way she approached. I saw it in the way she approached her diagnosis. It's extraordinary.
And she got to live every moment of her life, because some people stop living during their life. It's like, I have now stopped living.
I'm loving Don, by the way, because he sort of reads my mind, and this is a perfect segue.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Because that is so true. Like you said, you're asking your mom, and she's, well, I'm alive. You can, because when Desiree first was diagnosed, I started just reading about Stoicism. But like, one of the Stoic practices is, when you wake up in the morning, it's like a gift. You wake up, with curiosity and wonder. You're like, wow, I get another day. So you go to bed at night. You're like, well, maybe this is it. So
yeah.
But how often does the majority, let's say, of people, and this comes from the work that I do with people, they don't wake up to live their life until they get that piece of paper from a doctor. And like you said, Valerie lived every moment of her life. We should all be doing that. And in a way, that's one of those things when you are a caregiver, and there is this shift that takes place when someone is diagnosed, and you see them all of a sudden savor. And I love the word savor, right? They savor their life. And you're saying now, even with your mom, like, she'll want to give the kisses, right? She's in that moment, right?
Totally.
So I think it is so important to understand the idea of living life while we have it.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's almost like, literally, like, if you say one sentence in two different ways. You say, oh my God, you wake up, oh my God, I'm 88 years old. Or, oh my God, I'm 88 years old. I mean,
I'm a freaking rock star.
Because when you consider the alternative,
yeah.
it's
Well,
like,
my mom always said that. She goes, yeah, getting old is not for the faint of heart, but the alternative sucks.
And, what you're saying right now as well, that whole idea of, oh my God, I'm 88 years old, that's allowing yourself to be wondrous and curious, and just have fun, like play, right? But when I talk to people about Desiree, and they're like, oh, it's so sad. She lived a short life. She was just about to turn 41. She died when she was 40. I say, you know what? It's not about measuring life based on the number of years, but the amount of joy.
Yeah.
Right. And she lived an accelerated but full, joyful life.
Yep. It's quality, not quantity.
Exactly.
Yeah. And my father died in a plane crash at 46.
Wow.
And he was extremely impactful in the music industry in terms of his innovation of sound. He was an engineer and all kinds of things that I won't go into it, but I always say my dad lived 5 lifetimes in 46 years. Like, I think about being his age now and going, oh my God, how did he achieve that much in that much, a span of time? And what an amazing life he's had. And he's left a legacy, and he's in history books, and he's my hero. And,
wow,
and he lived a life. He lived a huge life. And that's all you can hope for, right? That's all we can hope for. And this comes from the little girl that's been afraid to die her whole life since she's 3 years old. Like, running out of my bed going, Dad, where do you go when you die? And he'd go, you're 3 years old. Go back to bed. You have like 100 years. I was always worried about what's going to happen instead of living now.
Right. And, the whole idea of, because I know a lot of people that, even my mom, I can tell you my mom, she's not the healthiest at 80 years old. And her grandmother, which was my great grandmother, Grandma Bridget, lived to 102 or something. And my mom is like, I'm going to be Grandma Bridget. And so I'm like, why? And she's like, well, I don't want to give it all up. And I think sometimes that's heavy to carry, because we all got to give it up.
Yeah.
And if you're holding on so tightly, and I love to do that, because I with your hands, if you just think about it, how are you going to grab another opportunity if you're just
That's
holding this
beautiful.
tight?
That's
right?
beautiful.
So,
Oh, I love that, Robert. That's so beautiful. If you can't see it, you're listening, you got to go look at our YouTube, because it's really good. Yeah, that's really nice.
That's what I want to go back to one thing when we were talking about
Sure.
taking care of yourself as a caregiver,
Mm.
and that caregivers need caregiving from others.
yes.
And it's hard to ask for that, especially, from your family and friends. And I think it's because there's a fear there that it was just like you were talking about before. The one thing you didn't want to hear when you went out for a drink was, oh my God, you didn't want the sympathy, the pity. You didn't want to talk about it. And I think we can help other people help us by telling them that. Say, you know what? Let's go grab a drink. I don't want to talk about it. Let's go just have a good time. And it takes that pressure off of them. And that helps them caregive you.
Right.
I know this is off the subject of what we were just talking about, but when we were in it, I wanted to bring this up because I think it's really important for caregivers to get caregiving.
Right.
That's so important. And the thing, what you just said is, somewhere along the line, we've all become afraid to communicate what we need. I don't know why that has happened. But it is saying, hey, first of all, for me, when you enter the caregiving space, it almost becomes a natural selection process, because there are some people that just don't know how to deal with you anymore. And there are some people that want to come in and help. And if you just come out and say, this is what I'm going through, this is who I am, this is what I need, are you with me? Let the pieces fall where they may. But the thing is, we need to communicate that. But we need to communicate that as people.
Yeah.
Stop trying to fit in or make others happy or all the other things that go on, because actually what we're doing is we're betraying ourselves.
Yeah. I had the disease to please for the majority of my life. And so trying to be a caregiver and then please other people is just a recipe for failure and for your own detriment, because you can't do it all. And, you can really see who your true friends are. And I'm not saying to use that as weaponize that, but you can see who they are in these kinds of times. So,
yes.
I had one friend that was we were very close, I thought. And I asked, there was years have gone by and she's never once asked to visit my mom or meet my mom. And I thought that's very strange that she wouldn't want to. Maybe it's coming from her fear. She doesn't want, but she's a big girl. She's a woman, it's like she's a mother and, come on. And so I thought, well, let me give her the benefit of the doubt. I invited her several times. Do you want to come with me on a Sunday? Just come. And I'd love you to meet my mom before, whatever's still there is there, and it never happened. And I had to finally have a coming to Jesus conversation with myself going, is this a friend? Or am I, putting characteristics into her that I want to see, and because I don't want to lose this friendship. And I think, there's another gift, and that is that you learn, okay, who are the real people, who are the authentic people in your life. We don't have time for everything.
Who's on your team?
Who's on your team?
I call it team Norma. And team Susie and team Don and team Robert, and it's fair. It's fair to make those decisions. It's right.
And it's team Norma, Susie, Don, Robert. It's team everybody. It shouldn't just be during caregiving.
Right.
Right. It's find those people that really are aligned with you. And there's so much involved in that, because like with your friend, I can't tell you how many people were afraid to actually see the reality because they're fearful it may happen to them.
Yes.
And so that's when you're really in your ego, right? And you're not seeing how you can help. But that whole idea of self-care, and also self-care is, like Don, you said, is needing a community. You do need a community, and you need a community that, you know, your role in your life changes, and that has an impact on the expectations you had for your life, which has an impact on your identity. And so you need some people around you to connect with a part of your identity that maybe you're not able to really connect with in the caregiving role anymore. I worked with a great guy in Dubai, and I have to say he was just phenomenal, giving me space to take care of my wife, and he loved her. But the thing was, he knew we had that conversation, so we'd get together, and all he would say is, "Bro, you're okay?" And I would say, "Yeah." And he's like, "Let's go do this. Let's go do that." It was just that one moment. He wanted me to know he cared.
Yeah.
And that he was acknowledging the situation I was in, but not making that situation my identity.
Got it. That's classy. I love that.
Because if you do that, then you do need a break from it.
Yeah.
you need that mental break from it.
You're a full person.
And it's not what and that's not, it doesn't define you. It's part of who you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not all of you. It's not all of you. Yeah. You're
I
right.
talk all the, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, you're right about the fear, though. People are afraid, people don't want to see it. Like I just reconnected with my niece, my nephew and his wife, and it's because I'm sure you've heard this or you've experienced this, but when things hit the fan, people either step up or they stage left. And my brother did a stage left, and I made excuses for him for a very long time because, oh, he's scared. Oh, he's had a rough time. Oh, this or that. But at some point you got to go, okay. And when I say this, man up, I mean, man up, woman up, person up, people
person up.
Person up.
Person up.
Come on, let's strap them on and let's go. We are all in this together. And, this is a long journey. And my nephew's wife, who's so empathetic and such a lovely soul, she said, I talk to Mark, my brother, every once in a while, and I say, you got to go visit your mom. And he goes, yeah, I know. I don't know what, I can't, I'm afraid. He's afraid. He's afraid to see her. And that's so sad to me, that we're afraid, that anybody's afraid to see someone's life where it is now.
Yes.
Why?
Because it's on that train, right? So it's seeing someone that's concluding their life journey. We don't know how long that's going to be,
right?
And that scares so many people. We're not meant to survive life. So the idea of being afraid to witness that approach towards end of life or finishing someone's life journey robs you of the time that you have with that person. And if, like you said, you can't communicate with them, emotions still, they communicate, they're tangible. I truly think that when this is all over, and I have no idea, but I think we are just a collection of all the emotions we've felt. And I love a kaleidoscope. I actually have one. I carry it with me everywhere. And I think we're just that kaleidoscope, all those colors are all the different emotions and experiences we've had. And so if you're letting fear stop you from connecting with your mom, who's going through something difficult, you've robbed yourself of that connection, of her love, of your love for her, and you've colored it with just one color, fear.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that kaleidoscope metaphor. I am like a
Go buy one. They're so cool.
Oh, I love kaleidoscope. Don, what am I about color? Like, what do you say?
Color all the time.
Because you say I'm like a cat. Like, what's that?
Well, no, I mean, literally, I mean, she is a cat and color is yarn. And
Okay.
she could be, I'm doing this and what, yellow, green. I mean,
I love color. I love it so much. It makes me happy. Like, pops of color everywhere. And I love color and I love, it's just, it gets my attention and it makes me happy. And I think that's because I like life. I like all of life and I like all the colors of it. Yeah. I like all the colors and I like it to be happy and bright and cheerful and bold. Why not be bold?
Absolutely.
Well, that question, right? Someone that's bold is going to put fear to the side and step in and go see mom.
Right. And it's so funny because we're raised by the same human being. And my mother, one of the things she taught me was to be bold. My mom we'd be out and about and my mom would stop a gorgeous woman that was walking by. My mom's 5 foot tall and go, "Excuse me, but you are unbelievably gorgeous. And Jesus Christ, are you good looking?" And the woman would just go, "What? Thank you. Thank you. No, don't thank me. Thank God." Just and my mom was so bold that way. And I remember when I was a teenager, I'd be really embarrassed. And now I just want to be like her because she made so many people so happy because she connected. She broke down all those filters and screens that we put up and jealousy and everything. My mom didn't have a jealous bone in her body. Just doesn't,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
just
beautiful.
like, wow, you're gorgeous. Look at those legs for days. Oh,
I want to go visit Norma.
Right?
Next time I want to come say hello to Norma.
Oh, please do. She'll love you. She'll eat you up. She loves, I always say she has more game with men than I do ever. Now, in the state that she's in now, she loves a good, she would be, right, Don? She would say to Don.
Yeah, you'll have to see our film. You'll get a sense of her. I mean, Valerie plays her, so beautifully. And then there are outtakes at the end with her in it, and you'll get a sense of who she is. And I think she's right up your alley.
You'd love it. Like,
I can tell you would connect with her in 2 seconds.
Yeah, there's a scene with the valet when she lived with me. I lived in a live loft workspace in Universal City, and so there was valet. It was like you're living in a studio, and every day she'd walk up to the valet because they knew her by now and go, "You're very good looking. I'm very wealthy. Just thought I'd say that." And they just go, and they loved her to bits. They loved her, and so it's just being bold is phenomenal because if you're fearful of how people, what are they going to think of you? Who gives a shit? Like my mom would say, who gives a shit? You don't like me? I don't like you.
Yeah. Well, it's that whole, if you think of, and here's a crazy thing because they say something like we have 27,000 days. That's the average life. And if we just only had $27,000 in the bank, we'd be pretty careful how we spent those dollars. So that idea of fear or fear if someone's going to accept you or fear of missing out and all the other fears, wow, are we just wasting a lot of those dollars, right? Because it's a currency. Time is a currency.
It's the only currency.
And you cannot take that with you. You cannot take that currency with you.
Exactly.
The 27,000, if you're still living, I kind of still need the 27,000. But you know what? You got to spend the other currency, the life currency, because you can't, that's something you're not taking with you.
Right. Right. There was a great quote, and I wish I could remember who said it, but it's, every morning waking up and saying, am I spending today as if it's my last day? Meaning, am I making those because you know what? If we've offended people or, we're wearing something that's way too colorful for something and people think we're crazy. There's this beautiful woman named Jennifer that I recently met, and she has stage 4 breast cancer and she has rainbow colored hair. And she's like, what the F do I care? It makes me happy, right? And so it's that idea of if we are trying to stay, and you said this earlier, Susie, those boxes, right? If we're trying to stay in those boxes, well, who the hell defined that box?
Exactly.
Because I don't think I was born to be in someone else's box.
Yes, I've never been in that box. I can't stay in that box. I'm claustrophobic.
Be your own box.
Yeah, I'm claustrophobic.
Be your own box. Be your own box.
Be your own box. hashtag be your own box.
Well, I think we could talk for the next.
Oh my God, I love you so much, Robert.
I love you guys too.
I
really.
love you so much. I wanted to say one thing before we wrap up, Don. I know we've gone too long, but I just wanted to say I was reading this book that Don got from his friend's father's funeral. They gave this book out like to everybody. But one of the things that I read from it has to do with what you were saying, Robert, is that, there's what he learned about happiness was two things. When times are bad, you should have grace. And when times are good, you should be grateful, because both good and bad will pass.
Wow. I absolutely love it. First, grace and graceful. I'm going to take that away for
Isn't
sure.
that gorgeous?
That's just beautiful. And that whole idea, how often do we use this too shall pass? And we use it
all the time.
Get out of my head. I was just going to say that.
For only the bad things. And then we're shocked when the good things change. But that's what life actually is. It's movement through things.
It's fluidity. Yeah.
Now, what really, and this is what Viktor Frankl says in his book, and other people have said that, I wish I could remember, there's an amazing woman. She was also a Holocaust survivor. She's like 96 and she's done a TED Talk recently. I mean, she's just amazing. And all that stuff changes if we can become the master of our mindset to always be in that state of joy or wonder and everything else. That's the thing we have control over more than anything else.
Right. That's why I love that concept of grace and gratefulness.
Grateful, yeah.
Because, when you're in the happy, you don't realize that you need to be grateful for it, because it will pass.
That's just the way it is. And it's, how do we want to show up?
With grace and gratefulness.
Gratefulness.
And
Wonderful.
I'm grateful for you. Don, what do we always say at the end of our show?
Well, first of all, I do want to note this may be our first show where the time of day changed during it. When we started, it was completely bright out there.
Yeah, you noticed?
Now it's nighttime.
The East Coast in the late fall, so it's
Yes.
Wow,
I love
that's
it.
true.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Well, we do say this at the end of every show, and I think this show really epitomizes what we do say, and that is, love is powerful, love is contagious, and love conquers alls. And we want to thank you for being our guest. We want to thank everyone for listening. And we can't wait to see you. Definitely, we'll put up all your links, your great website, your book, which we didn't even have a chance to talk about.
Follow this man; he's
so
very
you'll have to come
inspirational.
back and we'll talk about your book.
I love him. He's full of grace and gratefulness. And thank you, Robert.
No,
definitely. And next time we come back and
thank you.
Yes. Well, and next time we'll come back, we'll talk about your book, Chasing Life. And
we didn't even get into that.
I know, nothing. We didn't talk about anything. Why? We just wasted our time. Good.
I will personally say that I got a lot out of it. So for me, it was fantastic.
Oh, bless your heart.
No book, that's not that important.
Well, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time on Love Conquers Alls. And everyone take care.